Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumidam Yena Tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Paragamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Hanamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Chapter 5 Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Arjuna Uvacha Sanyasam Karmanam Krishna Punar Yogam Shamsasi Yajtreya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sanyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karavapho Tayostu Karma Sanyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate. The Blessed Lord said, the renunciation of work and devotion are both good for liberation, but of the two, work and devotional service is better than renunciation of works. Gyeya san nitya sanyasi yo na dveshti nakangshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhar pramuchyate. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, liberated from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna. Text 4. Sankhya Yoga Pritag Bala Bravadanti Napandita Ekam Apyastitya Samyag Ubhayor Vindate Phalam. Only the ignorant speak of karma yoga and devotional service as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. Text 5. Yat Sankhya Prapyate Stanang Yogar Tad Yogar Abhigamyate Ekang Sankyang Cha Yogam Cha Yapashyati Sapashyati. One who knows that the position reached by means of renunciation can also be attained by works in devotional service, and who therefore sees that the path of works and the path of renunciation are one, sees things as they are. Text 6. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukam aptum ayogataha yoga yukto munir brahma na chirenadikachati. Unless one is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, mere renunciation of activities cannot make one happy. The sages, purified by works of devotion, achieve the supreme without delay. Text 7. Yoga yukta vishuddhatma vijatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma kurvannapi nalipyate. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Purport. One who is on the path of liberation by Krishna consciousness is very dear to every living being, and every living being is dear to him. This is due to his Krishna consciousness. Such a person cannot think of any living being as separate from Krishna, just as the leaves and branches of a tree are not separate from the tree. He knows very well that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches, or by supplying food to the stomach, the energy is automatically distributed throughout the body. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, he is very dear to everyone. And because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there's no chance of his being deviated from Krishna. Nor is there a chance that he will engage his senses in matters other than the service of the Lord. He does not like to hear anything except topics relating to Krishna. He does not like to hear anything. He does not like to eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. He does not wish to go anywhere if Krishna is not involved. Therefore his senses are controlled. A man of controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. One may ask, why then was Arjuna offensive in battle to others? Wasn't he in Krishna consciousness? Arjuna was only superficially offensive because, as has already been explained in the second chapter, all the assembled persons on the battlefield would continue to live individually, as the soul cannot be slain. So spiritually, no one was killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only their dresses were changed by the order of Krishna, who was personally present. Therefore, Arjuna, while fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was not really fighting at all. He was simply carrying out the orders of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. Such a person is never entangled in the reactions of work. Text 8 and 9. Naiva kinjit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit pashyan shinvan sprishan jighran ashnan gachchan svapan shvasan pralapan visrijan grinhan unmishan nimishan indriyan indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharanayan. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all, because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, opening, or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects, and that he is aloof from them. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness is pure in his existence, and consequently he has nothing to do with any work which depends upon 5 immediate or remote causes: the doer, the work, the situation, the endeavor, and fortune. This is because he is engaged in the loving transcendental service of Krishna. Although he appears to be acting with his body and senses, He is always conscious of his actual position, which is spiritual engagement. In material consciousness, the senses are engaged in sense gratification. But in Krishna consciousness, the senses are engaged in the satisfaction of Krishna's senses. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is always free, even though he appears to be engaged in things of the senses. Activities such as seeing, hearing, speaking, evacuating, etc. are actions of the senses meant for work. A Krishna consciousness person is never affected by the actions of the senses. He cannot perform any act except in the service of the Lord, because he knows that he is the eternal servitor of the Lord. Text 10. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangham taktva karoti yaha lipyate na sapapena padmapatram ivambasa. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Text 11. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalar indriyarapi yogina karma kurvanti sangham taktvatma shuddhaye. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Text 12. Yukta karma palam taktva shantim apnoti naishtikim ayukta kamakarena pale sakto nibadhyate. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Text 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvan nakarayan. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Text 14. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhuhu na karma phala samyogam svabhasvas tu pravartate. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. This is enacted by the modes of material nature. So I was chanting from the beginning of the chapter, the Sanskrit and translations. We can start from 10 again. So this is chapter 5, text 10. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam taktva karoti yaha lipyate na sapapena padmapatram ivambasa. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Text 11. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalar indriyarapi yogina karma kurvanti sangham taktvatma shuddhaye. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Text 12. Yukta karma phalam taktva shantim apnoti naishtikim ayukta kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Text 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham bhashi navadhare pure dehi naiva kurvan nakarayan. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Text 14. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhuhu na karma phala samyogam svabhavastu pravartate. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Text 15. Nadate kasyachi chit papang na chaiva sukritam vibhuhu ajnanena vritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Nor does the Supreme Spirit assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Text 16. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham adityavaj jnanam prakashayati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Text 17. Tad buddhayas tad atmanas tanishtas tad parayanaha gacchantya punaravritim jnanam nirhuta kalmashaha. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Text 18. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shvapakecha pandita samadarshinaha. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. 19. Ihaivatar jita sargo yesham samye stitam manaha nirdosham hi samang brahma tasma brahmanite stitaha. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Text 20. Na praharishyet priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asambudho brahmavid brahmani stitaha. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is understood as already situated in transcendence. So let's read some purports. Really cool chapter. Chapter 5, text 10. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Purport. Here, Brahmani means in Krishna consciousness. The material world is a sum total manifestation of the 3 modes of material nature. technically called the Pradhana. The Vedic hymns, Sarvam etad Brahma, Tasmat etad Brahma, Nama Mahad, Nama Rupam Anam Cha Jayate, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma, indicate that everything in the material world is the manifestation of Brahman. And although the effects are differently manifested, they are non-different from the cause. In the Ishopanishad, it is said that everything is related to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and thus everything belongs to him only. One who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that he is the proprietor of everything, and that therefore everything is engaged in the service of the Lord, naturally has nothing to do with the results of his activities, whether virtuous or sinful. Even one's material body being a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. It is beyond contamination by sinful reactions, exactly as the lotus leaf, though remaining in the water, is not wet. The Lord also says in the Gita, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya, resign all works unto me, Krishna. The conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of the material body and senses, but a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should therefore be engaged in the service of Krishna. So this is reminding me of how there's a verse which says that the knowledge burns up all the reactions. So when we have full knowledge, then we always act in accordance with Krishna's will, knowing ourselves to be his servants, and naturally we are transcendental to this material world because we're executing our duty without attachment and we're surrendering the results to Krishna. So this attachment can be achieved through working under the direction of the spiritual master. So this is the prime, or this is the active principle of devotional service, and we can stick tight to the words of the spiritual master and attain purification. I was also thinking about how everything in this material world is a manifestation of Brahman, which means that it's coming from Krishna, the Parabrahman. So then I'm thinking of this verse. Maturanath and I were thinking of this earlier today, how everything is coming from Krishna. In the 10th chapter, different things are listed, like Shabdake, Paurusham, Drisha, that Krishna is the sound in the ether, and how actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that everything, or there isn't anything but the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the entire universe. So this is the vision of one who has developed love for Krishna, indeed, but it's not to be confused with the type of impersonalistic conception which is without full knowledge. It's not that we start worshiping other items as Krishna, rather we follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas and execute devotional service under their guidance. So when they direct us to worship the Archa Vigraha, then we take to that process rather than, worshiping the moon or the sun or the trees or the grass or the dog. But when we come to full knowledge, then we can understand that all of this is the energy of the Lord. So this is Krishna's property. And in that way, we're always meditating actually on our beloved Lord Krishna and trying to practically use everything in his service and not being neglectful of the resources which he is provided for his service. So let's read text 11. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Purport. By acting in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even of the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material restrictions, there are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sadachara, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes this as follows: Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikhilasvapyavastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. He has no false ego, nor does he believe that he is this material body, nor that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body, and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Right, so that sentence, when he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. So here we have more information which indicates that reaching perfection is an active process. So this title of the chapter is named Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So Prabhupada makes it clear, what does it mean to act in Krishna consciousness? He puts in parentheses, means that you act in the service of Krishna. And as I mentioned before, the service of Krishna can be properly understood by approaching the spiritual master, or who's in line with the acharyas, the mahajanas. So mahajano yenagata sapanta. Actually, Dharma lives within the heart of the pure devotees, and we can understand how to serve Krishna by learning from such persons. And communication is key. When we communicate, or when we hear, right? When we hear the communication, or we hear the message, we hear the Vani, we serve the Vani of the spiritual master, then we can be empowered to act. Now, sometimes, or there is a purport where Prabhupada discusses that even if one is not intelligent enough to take advantage of the instructions of the spiritual master, his sincerity by his sincerity, he can be helped in Krishna consciousness from within by the Lord. But if we're really sharp, then we're going to take advantage of the instructions of the spiritual master and make very quick advancement. And that is the life which is meant to be lived by those who reside with the spiritual master. Otherwise, such opportunities are very rare. But if one hangs tight to those instructions as their life and soul, as Prabhupada discusses many times, that he met his spiritual master maybe 10 times, but the words of his spiritual master, he held on to them very tightly. And so, does anybody remember where that is, that purport, where Prabhupada says that? I think it's this one where chapter 10, text 10, as far as I understand, or something like that. The phrase is that if one is not intelligent enough to take advantage of the instructions of the spiritual master, or maybe it says one is... You remember it, Prabhu? Yeah. Yeah? So let's see what that says. This is an interesting thing. It is here? A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization, but still, if he is not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that a person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness with love and devotion, render all kinds of services, and with love and devotion, render all kinds of services. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna, and that work should be with love. If a devotee is intelligent enough, he will make progress on the path of self-realization. If one is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. So then this again, Prabhupada here again stresses the importance of engagement, of action. It's a proactive process. So, we stay busy for Krishna, and we may have our own preferences, and there's room for differences, varieties in Krishna's service, and Krishna is ready to accept love and devotion from many, right? Even an elephant, or like a Gajendra, or persons coming from low birth or from high birth or from different, we have different natures. So he's willing to accept those. He's willing to accept the love and devotion of different persons, and ISKCON is a big place, so there's going to be some varieties. And we can take inspiration from many heroes, and such heroes may be doing different services, or maybe doing their services in a different way. We're meant to take inspiration and perform devotional service as best as we can according to the instructions of our spiritual master, or our guides or counselors, like that. And so essentially, we are all riding on Prabhupada's mercy, and he has made his instructions or his desires clear. So, if we're with Prabhupada and we're sticking to some of his instructions, that's very good, and that's better than being off with who knows who. So we have to appreciate that even though there may be some differences, we may be sticking tight to some of Prabhupada's instructions. That's very good. So we don't want to take away from that potency that Prabhupada brings to this movement and the purity. So those are kind of some tangent type of thing, but something I've been thinking about. And yeah, this action, this is something that's definitely been coming up again and again, or engagement, we have to stay engaged. That's really it, that's really the perfection. As sadhakas, as neophytes, we may not be pure, but if we're engaged by those who are pure, or we're engaged according to the instructions of those who are pure, or we're engaged in assisting those who are pure, right? Then we're getting purified, and it's working, and it will work. And Prabhupada has many letters again and again appreciating those who are engaged in Krishna's service in different various ways. And also he had a knack for engaging everybody in Krishna's service, no matter who they were. He'd find out how to engage them, and he would encourage them like anything to serve Krishna, to continue on, stay busy, work for Krishna. So, yeah, in this, for those who are, not a full-time devotees, then it's nice because we have our mind and our body and our words, but in general, we're kind of putting our wealth into the ISKCON account, more or less, and so that becomes less, and we're also not exactly using our mind to generate wealth. Exactly. We're not spending our mind to generate wealth. Now, sometimes that it does become somebody's service, even when they're a full-time devotee, to run a store or do a restaurant or different things like that. But in our case, our program is pretty simple. So mostly it's focused on the preaching efforts, and it's really important that we are always connecting all of our activities to preaching, to attracting or giving opportunity to others to serve Krishna. That's why I want to say it. We're focused on giving others an opportunity to serve Krishna. All right, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.